She walks every day through the streets of New Orleans. She's innocent and young, from a family of means. I have stood many times outside her window at night to struggle with my
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. And I'm on? I'm on? Okay. Okay.
Right around the time that
8:30.
Yep, coming up. There may be a distraction.
Maybe.
Yeah, 8:30.
No problem.
So,
They went over the speedway. We were at the speedway last night. Jake hit the floor.
Yep.
Had a little PTSD there.
Oh no.
But it's an all-female crew. I didn't know that.
All-female
That's
crew,
awesome.
and they were doing some practice runs yesterday.
Yep.
About 3:30, 4 o'clock.
That's when we saw them.
Yeah,
It was awesome.
It never gets old.
And they
never
flew right
gets
over
old.
the.
That's great.
We were up in the Advent area.
Oh yeah.
And they flew right over that.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
No, I love it. I call it the sound of freedom.
Oh,
Sound of freedom. Right.
Yep. All right. Well, let's get on the road so we don't hold you up too much.
No problem.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. If those who are up, if you can kindly take your seats. And good morning, everyone. Here we go. A round of applause for all of this networking. Because this is the real reason we do this, right? So we can come together and, talk about all the great things that are happening in this community. I'd say we don't do this enough. But unfortunately, we can only give you results quarter by quarter. So here we are at the fourth quarterly update for 2023. And so before we get started, I want to thank you all for coming. I have a few housekeeping items before we get started with the program. So first and foremost, if you have your cell phone, if you can turn that off or put it on vibrate, I get very distracted. And I know a lot of you have some great ringtones, but my ADHD will pop into effect and then we'll never get this thing done. So if you can put your cell phones on vibrate, that would be appreciated. Also, bathrooms are to your left on the side through the back double doors. There's some bathrooms through these glass doors as well, but you can make your way out to the terminal if necessary. Also, today's event is being streamed live and is live captioned. And to view live captioning, please go to floridabusiness.org in the Media Center and look for closed captioning. Also, there will be a ton of questions, I am sure. So there's going to be question cards at each table. Please fill them out, and a staff from the county's Economic Development Division, got Katrina there in the back, and Tatiana and Heather, they'll come and take those from you. And at this time, let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Play ball. I think I need the national anthem too. All right. I'd like to take a moment to recognize some of our VIP guests in the room, and I will do this in alphabetical order. Well, actually, I'll start with Senator Tom Wright, Florida State Senate. Lynette Phillips, District Aide for Representative Tom Leake. Jake Johansson, Volusia County Council Member. Matt Reinhardt, Volusia County Council Member. Danny Robbins, Volusia County Council Member. Will Roberts, Volusia County Tax Collector. Don't worry, Will, it happens to me all the time, right? Where's that new air service? Boo. So, Phyllis Butlin, DeBerry Vice Mayor. Debbie Dalbo, Edgewater Council Member. Vernon Burton, Lake Helen Mayor. Lisa Stafford, Orange City Council Member. Alex Tiampson, Orange City Vice Mayor. And Don Burnett, Port Orange Mayor. Are there any elected officials in the room that I missed? I did Tom. Yep. He was the first one. So I want to thank our sponsor from Duke Energy, I have Elizabeth Godwin, Senior Manager of Industry Recruitment, Florida Economic Development with Duke Energy. So thank you, Elizabeth. Do you want to come up and say some words?
Well, good morning. It is great to be with you all on this Friday. As he said, my name is Elizabeth, and I have the pleasure of working for Duke Energy. I'm sure you're somewhat familiar with our company. We power the lives of our more than 1.9 million customers here in Florida, including 88,000 just here in Volusia County, primarily on the west side. So we know that our customers want affordable, reliable, and increasingly clean energy, and so we are making significant investments across the state to deliver that. We've also made the ambitious commitment to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2050. And so we are doing a variety of things to get there. By the end of this year, we're going to have 1,500 megawatts of solar online across the state. One of those plants is right here in DeBerry. But in addition to solar, we're looking at a variety of different technologies to help us reach that goal. And one of those is hydrogen. So you may have heard that late last year we announced a really innovative hydrogen pilot, again, in DeBerry. So we are going to be powering an electrolyzer from the solar there, and then that electrolyzer will be creating hydrogen, and then that hydrogen will be stored and blended with natural gas in a combustion turbine. And over time, we'll increase that ratio of hydrogen and natural gas. It's very, very exciting. I mean, it may not sound like it to you, but for us and our company and the industry, hydrogen really is probably going to be a significant part of our energy future. And I'm just very happy to have that innovation happening in our backyard, and we're very appreciative of the city of DeBerry. But in addition to our core business and investing in the clean energy transition, we have also for decades invested in economic development. And we are committed to our communities and to working with our partners to bring new jobs and capital investment. So I have the pleasure of working here in Volusia with fantastic partners, Team Volusia, Volusia County, many, many cities, but then of course FloridaCommerce, who has been, who is just, I mean, they are steering the ship for our state. And we're grateful for their partnership, but in particular, I am grateful for Laura, because Laura has just been such, she has incredible energy. I don't know how she does it. And she has been such an authentic advocate for economic development and for the state of Florida, and really led during a period of a lot of transition. So I'm excited to be here today to hear from her, and we just appreciate the opportunity to sponsor this morning's breakfast. So thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So with that, probably around 8:30, there's a rumor that we may have a mini air show that will take place. And so what I want to do is get through the fourth quarter results as quickly as I can, and then hopefully we are able to take a brief pause so we can see the all-female crew of the Thunderbirds perform. And, you know, this is another one of the times of years where we're fortunate to have the relationships and the partners that we have in the community, fortunate to have the Daytona 500, and fortunate to have the Thunderbirds come for that honor. So we soak it in, and so I want you to enjoy that experience as well. So we'll take a brief pause before we hear from our esteemed speaker, and then hopefully we won't keep you too late with that. So I'll jump right into the presentation, and we'll talk about labor force and employment. And our unemployment rate's been hovering around 3.3 to 3.4%. Our available labor force and labor force that are employed have gone down just a little bit, but we're still well above those record numbers that we set since we got out of the bulk of the pandemic. So my experts on the team tell me that this is exactly where we need to be. So numbers are still looking good as it pertains to unemployment. Looking at employment by major industry, if we look at our year-over-year gain or loss, we had a net gain of over 6,000, with the biggest share being in healthcare and social services, followed by leisure and hospitality. So the only two industries that experience losses are going to be construction and transportation and warehousing. So we had about $206 million worth of permits. We had 28 permits in the commercial new construction arena. So pretty strong, actually. That was tops for the year in terms of the value of the permits. However, 28 permits were filed for during the fourth quarter. So with that, looking at construction, $37 million in the education sector comes from the new CC and Hyatt Brown Center for Aerospace Tech at Embry-Riddle. So if you're driving down Clive Morris, you'll start to see that building start to take shape there. They're doing a great job moving along with construction there. And also, in a previous Q conversation we had earlier in the year, James Ford spoke on behalf of Caris, who is building 3 cold storage facilities. And if you haven't noticed, near the intersection of I-4 and 95, just off of Williamson, those buildings are starting to come out of the ground as well. So his phase 2 represented the latest permit amount of $35 million. So there's a lot of things going on in the community in terms of construction. Looking at new construction for residential, we had 740 permits, just under $300 million worth of permits there. And then looking at the trends, of course, the Great Recession, we saw a significant decline, and we rose towards right before we got to the pandemic. And numbers are starting to stabilize with regards to total permit value. And also permit counts are starting to come down a bit. Getting into the GDP, we've been pretty strong over the past 5 years. We've seen a steady incline since 2017. Growth contracted a bit due to the pandemic. However, Volusia County, we were significantly stronger than some of the growth rates that, if you compare the state of Florida and also the United States. So looking over the past 5 years, we've held about 13% worth of growth. Florida actually kind of came back a bit at 20%, but we're ahead of the U.S. trend rate as it pertains to the GDP in terms of millions of dollars. So looking at the industry, a standout and where we're seeing the largest number of gains is with professional business services and also arts, leisure, and hospitality. Of course, finance, insurance, real estate, and rental and leasing lead the way. But in 2022, and that's where we're getting these numbers right now, Volusia County had a record 10.6 million visitors to our area. And so that's a major contributor to our growth. So both of these industries are in the top 5 for our employment arenas as well. And then we're looking at our export trends here on this slide. Our export trends surged in 2022 with a growth rate of 29%, and it's the highest numbers that we've had since 2015. That 29% growth actually moved our MSA from 11 to 10 if we're ranking with other Florida communities. And you can see on the chart on the top right, our export sectors in business and community. And it shows us what we're producing. Transportation and equipment, of course. That would be from our boating manufacturing industry. But then we also had some pretty good gains in textile and mill products. So the development and manufacturing of parachutes and different things on the west part of the county are contributing to some of those numbers. So with that, I breezed through my update so we can talk to someone that knows a thing or two about commerce, international trade, and port activity. So Laura DiBella is the President of Business Development for FloridaCommerce. She previously served as Secretary of Commerce and President and CEO of Enterprise Florida. Prior to her state appointments from November 2019 through July 2022, she served as Executive Director of Florida Harbor Pilots Association, charged to represent and ensure the uninterrupted flow of commerce through all 14 operating deep water seaports in Florida. Before pilots, from 2014 to 2019, Laura served as the Executive Director of Nassau County, Florida Economic Development Board, as well as the Port Director for the Port of Fernandina, Ocean Highway, and Port Authority of Nassau County. While serving in both roles, she oversaw several high-profile recruitments and expansion projects encompassing manufacturing, corporate headquarters, healthcare, and logistics, coupled with millions of dollars in grant funding. So we got through that faster than we thought. So we'll have some time to ask Laura some questions before the Thunderbirds take off, and then we'll come back and kick it off again. So with no further ado, Laura.
Thank you, Cyrus. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing a mic check here. Am I okay with the microphone? Making sure? Okay, good, good. Okay, good. Let me put my notes here in case I need them. So hi everybody, good morning. Nice to see you all again. I was going through my calendar and thinking, I was like, this breakfast was the first speaking engagement I ever had when speaking to communities when I moved on to at that time, I was Deputy Secretary for under Enterprise Florida. So it's awesome to be back. So kind of closing a big loop in my career and our time together, if you will. And so much has happened since then. So I think that was in like August, September or so of 2022. So I think, you know, I'll ask you all some questions as far as what you want me to talk about, because I'm happy to do that. I have my, you know, what I traditionally say to people as far as what's going on, and I tie in some of what you are looking to learn into my talk. But probably will be helpful while we're like in this, you know, space of time before the ladies take off, is to just explain what has happened, you know, structurally, in terms of economic development in the state of Florida, because there has been some changes. Not changes as far as you all are concerned, but changes as far as we are concerned, you know, here at the state level and how we deal with things. So if you all recall, last time I was here, there was an organization called Enterprise Florida that was in place. Enterprise Florida was birthed from what was originally the Florida Department of Commerce back in 1996, 97 under Lawton Chiles. So they had converted the Department of Commerce into a public-private partnership, which eventually became Enterprise Florida, where businesses and government leaders together moved forward with economic development in mind. It was a model that Florida was the first to do it. Actually, 14 other states took that model and ran with it. So, and it lasted for 27 years here in the state of Florida. Last legislative session, obviously not the one that we're in, last legislative session, Speaker Renner made it a priority, House Bill 5, to convert the functions of Enterprise Florida back into the Florida Department of Commerce model, thereby taking two agencies that existed, Enterprise Florida and the Department of Economic Opportunity, and bring them together under one umbrella, which is now FloridaCommerce. Take that in for a minute. So, okay. So now the big agency, it has many divisions within it. So I'm talking about, we have a division of economic development, we have a division of workforce, we have a division for this and this and this and this and this. So it's just one very large umbrella agency with a bunch of divisions within it. Space Florida is there, Visit Florida is within this agency now. Whereas before, we were all working together, but now the thought is that we're now working, you know, much more efficiently as one unit, and there's a lot more cross-pollination between all of the agencies within it. So it's only been around now for about 6 months, so I will be lying to you if I said everything's running really smooth, because it's not. You know, we're still building this out, but it is fully up on board. We retired Enterprise Florida By law, we had to by December 1st, and we did that. So now we are fully commerce. So Enterprise Florida is no longer our name. And what you all should know also from the economic development side of things, there is a smaller division within the Division of Economic Development that was created called Select Florida. Select Florida is essentially a mini public-private partnership that handles all of the international activity. So I'm talking about the international trade and all that traditionally was handled by Enterprise Florida. So don't want to confuse you there, but if all you need to know basically is FloridaCommerce, Select Florida, same thing, basically, when it comes to economic development. We're all doing basically the same things, just a little bit different areas of activity within that. So any questions on that before I move on? No? Okay, good. It'll probably come out some more in there. All right, so I'll take some questions from the audience. What do you all want to hear about today? As far as that. Okay.
How Volusia County can attract high-paying jobs?
Easy. Go ahead. Anything else? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will address that actually right now. So we are still working through some of the language and what is allowed and what is not allowed. The grant function that Enterprise Florida used to be able to provide to both rural communities and also for trade grants is no longer on the table right now because we're still we have to adhere very closely to the language in House Bill 5 as far as what we can do and we cannot do. So I'm not saying it's not ever going to be the case, but I think right now we're still working out what that's going to look like. So that's one thing that Let me keep my words right here. That's one thing that is difficult. Like a plan looks really good on paper, but the implementation is where the rubber is meeting the road, and we are going through the implementation of language right now, and it's going to take a little while to finesse this and massage it in a way that it will resemble what we were able to do before. So not in all cases, in some cases. One thing you actually bring up a really good point that I didn't make very clear before. The changes obviously are external, internal to us. As far as external, outside of what you had just brought up, all the incentives remain for the companies that we had. Everything is still on the table. Our trade grants and our rural programs are what we are still working on as far as that goes. But everything that we offered companies before in terms of incentives and grants and everything that's programmatically was in place is still in place today. So there is a terrible, other states are weaponizing this situation against us right now, saying, Florida shut down economic development entirely. There's no more incentives on the table and all of that. They're having an absolute field day about this. But I can assure you that there is no change to any of our incentives as far as what we offer to companies, especially the very high-paying jobs that we're going after right now. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Laura, I appreciate your overview.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely precise as to what's happening. I would tell you on the ground that there is a bottleneck.
There's a what? I'm sorry?
A bottleneck.
Yeah.
The amount of lead generation that we had seen from the state is noticeably down. Not to blame that on politics, it's just the way it is. So I'm hoping you guys will fill in those gaps and get a little more. Because the people are using it against us right now.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
I've heard it.
Yeah.
So, sorry to be a downer, guys. Just wanted to.
It's okay. We're talking about reality. This is what we need to. Go through. So, it's important. So thanks for bringing that up. I have heard that. I can speak to that a little bit. Numbers. The volume of projects I think it's changed a little bit because some companies just don't know who to go to first. They're going to the power companies too first, oftentimes. They don't know who's on first anymore because their initial contact, they're unsure if that's still their same contact now. So projects are coming to us. They always come to us in different ways, but companies are going to whomever they feel most comfortable with right now because they're unsure, who the point person was, in the midst of the change, because it was very hard to get out during the change who that person was going to be. So they're going through the utility providers, they're going through the local communities. It's just it's been a very circuitous conversation as to how we are dealing with the incoming. Also, to be entirely fair to what's going on, we are in an election year. There are, it is not, I've been in this world long enough that, I've been through a few election cycles. The election year, things slow down. Everybody kind of presses pause and they wait to see what's going to happen, because many are making decisions, many companies that we're talking to are making decisions based on IRA funding, IIJA funding, all sorts of programs that should, President Biden not be in place anymore, may go away. So it's, there is, or alternatively, should Trump come in, they absolutely want to be here, so it's just, we are very much, as much as we like to say, politics has zero to do with what we do. It has everything to do with what we do, especially because when these companies are making big moves. So that is a reason why things have slowed down a little bit.
Laura.
Too. Yeah.
Laura.
Yeah.
Can you speak to the competitive process for attracting companies and how that trickles down to the counties, and then what the competitive process among the counties looks like?
Yeah, you mean when a company comes to us at the state and then we deal with that? Okay, yeah. So companies come to us with in different ways and in different stages. Some of them come to us with an absolute, done all their research. They know exactly where they want to go. They just need help in navigating the political landscape and the incentive processes and all that stuff. There's other companies that come to us and they know absolutely nothing. They're like, tell us all about Florida. Give us, I'm going to stop. Is this time? Here we go.
Here they come right now, and they're coming from east to west. And there they go. Yeah, and there they go.
Yay!
There's going to be more.
This is everywhere. There you go. No, let me go. That's my work phone, but I'll give you my personal cell while we have it here. Here you go.
Just type that in.
Sure.
I'm going to send you a picture.
Okay. Oops. Thank you.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank
Keep
you.
that one, Ron. Yeah.
Thank you for
Nice to
meeting with
see you.
Jason and I out there that day in Tallahassee.
Of course. It was great.
Just for everyone's information, they're going to come back and do a few more maneuvers, so that was not the show.
That wasn't it.
That was not the show. They'll come back, they'll do a few more maneuvers, and it'll probably be about 10 minutes worth of exercise that they are planning on working out ahead of the race, and so we'll be able to see a little bit of those things that they're practicing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are we still on pause for a little bit?
Yeah, we're still on pause, just for a second.
Okay, good. I'm gonna eat a grape.
Yeah.
And I'll do that.
We'll give Laura a chance to catch up with her breakfast, and then
It was my cold grape.
we'll see what tricks they show us while they are practicing for the race.
What? Yeah. There's just okay. I mean,
right, everyone. If we can take our seats so we can get back into the question and answer session with Ms. DiBella. Yeah, you're right. Everyone. Well, but they normally come back. Everyone. If we can get back to our seats. So the Thunderbirds teased us a little bit because typically they do a few more runs over the runway, but we're not going to probably get that before we're out of the time. And so I want to make sure that we have enough time to get some questions and answers in to Laura. So if we can all take our seats here, and then we'll get back on schedule. And then if they happen to fly by, then they just happen to fly by.
Am I okay? Am I on? What? I think I turned it back on. Yeah, I got the, okay.
All right.
I'll go back to, I'll answer Katrina's question here as far as how it goes. So companies come to us in different ways. We know where, sometimes they know exactly what they want, and other times they don't know exactly what they want. So we get we'll handle it depending on how the company wants to approach it. And we will look at all aspects of what's important to them. You know, are they looking for infrastructure? What are the drivers? You know, is it workforce? You know, is it infrastructure? Is it, you know, being close to a certain industry cluster? Is it being close to a seaport? Is it, you know, what is it? Airports? You know, all those things. You know, there's a battery of options that need to be weighed in order to cite, you know, a facility somewhere, facility or corporate headquarters, you know, whatever it may be. So we take all that, we aggregate it, and then we send out the request to those communities that would be the best fit for this type of user that's coming along. And then the communities come back to us, you know, they respond, either they reject and they say, well, you know what, we can't handle this, or, you know, with the requirements that are there, or they come back with a response, and then we package it all together, we give it to the customer, we go over it with the customer very thoroughly, and then we down select communities from there. I'll tell you right now, incentives have nothing to do with the initial part of the equation. None. If a company comes to us and says, we have all this, we want to put a facility there, tell us what incentives you can give us. That's an automatic red flag. Because if a company has nothing to provide to us, has not got into detail, like very, very extreme detail of what they want to do as far as capital investment, jobs, average wage, all of these wonderful things, they are not serious. So we have the ability, we have an amazing sales team. I love our business development team. They were all local economic developers. They understand these sensitivities. I was a local economic developer too, so we all understand the sensitivities around all this, and we know who's playing games and who's real and who's not. So we're able to really dissect that very quickly, but if the incentive conversation is the very first thing they want to talk about, we automatically know how to deal with these people. So I want to make very clear where incentives come into play. Incentives come into play when it's you versus another community. That's it. It is really what pushes you over the edge, when they're looking at two communities so closely, and that's where things get really competitive. Economic development is truly all local. So how do you attract more jobs? You get really aggressive on the local level, because I'll tell you right now, state is not going to pony up anymore right now. The state incentives are a bad word. I hope to God that incentives stay where they are right now and not go away, along with some of the other programs that are no longer in existence. So you as a community need to fight harder to make up for where we are lacking today.
You'd agree that the counties who've been very successful the last couple of years have spent millions of dollars to bring in those thousands of high-paying jobs.
They've done certain things, but I wouldn't say they've spent money. But I would say it doesn't come down to shelling out money. It's fast track permitting. It's being able to support the onboarding of communities, you know, while they're transitioning. You know, supplying them, I don't want to say with free office space, but giving, one thing that I experienced a lot, just to give you an example, what I experienced a lot when I was up in Nassau County, we're a rural county, still rural, one of the fastest growing counties in the nation actually now. When we had a big manufacturing facility or a headquarters or whatever it is, these companies need a place to basically, incubate while they're building their facility. We're dealing with, a new, greenfield type of project. It takes a year and a half to put that thing up. If an incentive could be supplying them with office space somewhere while they're, setting up their operations, or supporting them somehow at the local college. I'm saying this is a lot easier said than done. But this is the type of stuff, these creative ways of approaching, attracting, and also helping onboard these companies to your communities. It doesn't always involve giving money. It doesn't always, or giving a rebate or any of those things. It could be something much more creative that is beneficial to everyone involved. But getting them in is the hook. So that's what I'm saying.
What about like when Florida competes with Alabama and incentives they've done? I mean,
Again, that's a this and this. That's a this and this. So what is required in situations like that, it is making sure that they are actually doing an apples to apples comparison. When you're dealing with a state that has income tax versus a state that doesn't, you can't look at those two things the same, because basically the incentive for an Alabama or any of the other states that we may be dealing with is that they're taking off the income tax. Well, that's great. We never had that to begin with, so that's not a fair comparison. You have to make sure that you are articulating, in a very, very positive and correct way that we are not the same as them as far as how we are taxing them, how we are dealing with certain things all together. It really, really is it's a fight down to the line item, like on everything. So it's a fun job. It really is fun, but it gets it gets really dirty. We get into the weeds as far as how we go after.
Came from Alabama.
Yeah.
They gave them $500,000 of incentive for a job created. And there's thousands of jobs. Payroll taxes, every tax pretty much they went in there and cut it off.
Yeah.
Bring that land.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a lot of programs, and if I had more time, I could go over all of those programs with you and how we really do compete. Contrary to what people believe, we really do have the ability to compete for these big scale projects, and we do. Our secret weapon really here in the state of Florida is Space Florida. The charter that Space Florida supports. Very few people know, and it is a very complicated thing to explain, but the charter that Space Florida has economic development tools that no other state has. That is the reason why the aerospace and defense industry is growing here so much. Besides the fact that ecosystem is here, and now it's been commercialized so much, and it's just bleeding like all over the place. It's the entire state. It's not just right here in your backyard. It really is. Space activity is taking over our entire state at will. But the Space Florida Charter allows for us to basically take a lot of upfront capital costs away from these companies and allow them to come here and build their facilities and put their money where it needs to be, which is towards operations, towards hiring, towards all of these towards equipment, all the really big ticket items that make a company want to be here, or be anywhere for that matter. So that is something that we have that no other state has, and it is exceptionally competitive, and it has made us really, we've sharpened our ability to do stuff with that particular tool. Yeah?
What is your proudest achievement as the president of FloridaCommerce, and can you share that monumental story with us? What was the big thing that you were able to achieve for our state? Your proudest moment.
Gosh, there's so many. There are so many. We had, wow, this is tough. I have not reflected on this very much. You know what was the proudest? It really has been. It was it was walking into a situation that was not exactly stable. When I came onto Enterprise Florida, you know, it was under constant attack every session, and the staff the morale was very low with the staff. Here I was, you know, another person put in charge. Granted, I had an economic development background. I knew some of them, but there was kind of that look of like, what are you going to do for us? We're going to get shut down next year. You know, really is why? You know, so it was a touchy situation. You know, so there was a lot of vacancies. So I was doing about like 6 jobs at that time. I remember I was having heart palpitations. It was really hard for the first like couple months. And we built the team. We built the team actually really quickly. Built them back, and like toward the beginning of 2023 was really amazing. Actually, when I was made an honest woman, I was made secretary in February of last year. We were really like we were going fast. We had an amazing business development team. We really had some really. We had a couple wins under our belts, big wins, and we had a series of projects that were about to close. We were chasing some really big deals, one that was looking right here in Volusia County. It was a really amazing time, you know, and then stuff happened. So, you know, so now it's you know, the morale changed again, but you know, we're getting better. But I think that was probably my proudest moment, is being able to turn around and have turn around that situation and have a really well-oiled machine, because there was a lot of people that believed that wasn't going to be we weren't going to be able to do that. So, and I appreciate them, because most of them have stayed. You know, the business development team has stayed. They're the most dedicated people that I have ever worked with. So talented. So, you know, I was only there to help them, and helping them do your work, to do God's work, basically. And it's and I appreciate them immensely. So that would be my proudest moment, was actually watching them live to their potential and work to their potential.
So now that you have the machine well oiled, what does the future of Florida look like on a large scale, and how can we, as Volusia County, draw and attract and connect with you to bring business to our local community?
Well, Florida is just really in an amazing situation. And I mean that, I'm not saying that because I get paid for it. I mean it because it is absolutely positively the case. So our GDP jumped from last year to this year to almost 20%. So we went from 1.47 trillion to 1.6 trillion. So we're now the 14th largest economy by GDP in the nation. So we're bigger than Mexico's economy. We're bigger than Indonesia's. Our goal is to be 10 by 2030. That's going to make us as big as Canada. I mean, we're not messing around. Like, we are truly a force to be dealt with, and we are moving quickly away from the service-based economy to, you know, truly a manufacturing and just all of that. So now we're number 10 in manufacturing in the nation. We beat New York. So, and we're only going to continue more down that path as we continue to really develop our aerospace and space industries here. And I say that, and people are like, wait, that, you know, that you're really, you know, putting all your eggs in one basket. No, we're not. Everything involves space these days. Everything involves satellite activity, battery activity, you know, whatever it is. Space is going to blanket every single industry that we are talking about now. So we want to be at the forefront of all of that technology from the entire supply chain down, because that is what's moving the world these days. So we're launching how many? Well, did 73 launches, I think, last year. We'll have double that this year. What are they launching? What are they putting into orbit? Satellites. There you go. So, you know, that just speaks volumes to where we're going. And here's more. Here's more. Oh, that's normal. That's not. Okay. So So take that. So that's space, and then you have the aviation side. So Florida, aerospace and defense. Let me say that aerospace and defense is our #1 industry in Florida. It surpassed agriculture last year. We'll never look back. We'll never look back. So that's it. The MRO activity, the maintenance, repair, operations activity, with all the airplanes, airports, all that wonderful stuff, is growing exponentially. We have companies that want to be here in the MRO space because of our proximity to Latin America. The service centers need to be here in Florida because of our Latin American influence and connectivity to them and all that is incorporated within that. So with the reshuffling of everything that's happening in the supply chain, break away from China, and repositioning, there is a lot of movement towards Central America, Latin America, and obviously the United States. If we can't get them here in Florida, they're coming to our closest trading partners, and I'm talking about Mexico, I'm talking about Latin America. So we are benefiting both ways. We're benefiting directly and we're benefiting indirectly through trade. So it's really, that's why I say it's an amazing time, and it's not stopping. So that is really where it's going. Having Embry-Riddle in your backyard is amazing because because the workforce is so badly needed. We can't train these people fast enough. So did I answer your question? Okay, good.
Hey,
Yeah.
good morning, and thanks for being here. My name's
Yeah.
Sean Gepfert, and I've been in this area since 1988. I've had the opportunity to grow up in South Florida, Jacksonville, live in Orlando.
Wow, you
Moved
sound
to-
like me.
What's
Great,
that?
Yeah. Sorry, just kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm here, and I decided to make this my life in Volusia County, and watching it grow over the last 30 years, it's been exciting. What can FloridaCommerce do for us where we have issues? And those issues are, and I hear it often now, is transportation.
Mm-hmm.
Our roads, and I grew up in South Florida, our roads are not congested. But they are for someone who grew up here in the Port Orange area or the Ormond Beach area.
Yeah.
And we hear, well, we don't have the money. We don't have the money. It costs so much to expand LPGA over a creek. And it costs, this is a state road, this is a county road, this is a city road. What resources can we get from FloridaCommerce to help develop that transportation sector? And like we have an issue right now down at Pioneer Trail where this has been a long-term transportation plan to have an intersection. Now we might have a hiccup. And there's all this development that's occurred. How can FloridaCommerce help us with that? And also providing, the biggest thing I hear is, yeah, we want to come to Volusia County, but you don't have ready development for us.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a developer willing to go out and buy the land and build something, so someone will hopefully move into it. What resources can we get from FloridaCommerce financially to help this happen?
Okay, let me answer the road question first. The importance is continually elevating the need. I mean, you have a very qualified DOT representative here, that is on top of everything that you need. But ultimately, they're competing with the rest of the state, as far as needs and all the requirements that go there. And there's only so much of a budget. So if you're able to put together some sort of public-private partnerships for some of these roads, not the big ones. I mean, I understand, but any of these areas that could be held, public-private partnerships are the way to go. That's where I would say would be my answer to that. But continually elevating the issue. Almost being that squeaky wheel all the time, saying this needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. Because I guarantee you somebody else is doing it if you're not doing it. So continually being that is the best answer I can give to you, outside of getting creative and doing and establishing public-private partnerships to help shepherd this along, because they certainly love the buy-in from private. It shows well, up there. Secondly, we do have some programs in place as far as how we can help communities as far as readying their sites. Probably the Job Growth Grant Fund would be. There's two. Well, rural infrastructure fund would only apply to a few areas of this county, but that is definitely an area that you can, a program you can look at. But then you have the Job Growth Grant Fund, which is more or less a more flexible instrument that we can use towards proactive infrastructure investment. So if you have a site, you know, that's publicly or privately owned that, you know, has an infrastructure need of some sort, we can, you know, and you have a good case as to why this would be good for us to invest, because again, if there's only so much money, you know, that you're competing with, you know, across the state, that is an area that, you know, a tool that we can possibly deploy. So that's what I'd say. How am I looking?
For one more question, and that came from the back of the room, right there. There is talk that the upper levels of Space Force are currently making a decision to base either in California or Florida. What input does, well, VCED have in this regard? VCED doesn't have any insight at this point, but Laura does.
Well, I can tell you that, you know, so we have obviously Space Florida, you know, and all that's involved in there, and also our military and defense division, again, a new division within, you know, FloridaCommerce is, it's not new to commerce, that is very much on top of all of these things. You know, that is all of these activities. Not only do they stay on top of the needs of all of our you know, 20 plus bases, you know, around, and you know, to ensure that they're getting what they need, and I mean anything that they need, but also going after SpaceCom was, I'm sorry, StarCom was a huge win, actually, for us. So, you know, I can't say, you know, what our odds are here and there. I mean, but there's only a few places that this makes sense, you know, really. So if we continue to drive this bus the way we are in terms of, you know, being the leader in everything space, being the gateway to space, we truly are. We're the gateway to Latin America. We're the gateway to space. You know, we're the Wall Street South, and you know, and the new Silicon Valley all rolled into one. We have a very good chance, I'd like to say. I would hope that politics doesn't get into it, but you know, I don't know that. But I'd like to say, you know, our chances are really good, and that's only speaks volumes. So that, yeah. That's not up to me. Not up to me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts about it? Are we going to get close to allow them to start having testing them?
In 2027.
Oh my God.
2026. Well, let's see. Hold on. 2026. I mean, I can talk to you a lot about that offline. So Florida is the absolute hub. Will be the hub for advanced air mobility. For those who are not familiar, eVTOL. It's electric vertical takeoff and landing. For those who are not familiar, what I'm talking about there, I'm talking about flying taxis. You know, you hear about these things like the Jetsons. You know, these amazing little vehicles, electric power vehicles that are going to transport us all over the place. It is a reality. It is happening. We're talking to a lot of these companies. We had a really big one here that we lost by a hair. We lost them by a hair. We lost them because of ready inventory. That's it. I can honestly say, but I won't get into that in a minute. But yeah, Florida is the absolute Goldilocks market. It will be the first market that will see these vehicles actually take off here in the United States. So right now, Dubai is going to be first. Florida will be second. So it's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, it's all based on the FAA. I know the absolute person that we need to talk to at the FAA about it, but it's it's a first mover advantage. Whoever gets that FAA certification first will ultimately almost win this entire space. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we are. According to the feedback I received from the infrastructure partners that need to support that obviously you need in order to support the industry, it's happening here. It's happening here. Yeah. And Florida's really behind it on the legislative side. Thank you, Tom. Yeah.
Please join me in giving Laura a round of applause. Laura, thank you so much for what you've done for our state, what you've done for our community. We appreciate, and we're just so fortunate to have you be a speaker with us twice. And so thank you so much. And I also want to thank our sponsor, Duke Energy. Thank you for sponsoring our wonderful breakfast. And if anyone is interested in sponsoring a future Q breakfast, please see me or my esteemed experts in the back. Katrina will probably do better than I could, but please let her know. Please mark your calendars for the next Q. It's going to be May 17th of 2024. And once again, thank you for joining us this morning. Have a great weekend. Hopefully you'll see some Thunderbirds flying around on your way out. But happy Daytona 500 as well. Thank you so much.